So I did my lesson on the grades 9 to 12 ELA Inform Expressive. So the disciplinary standard would be utilize context, parts of speech, grammar, and word choice to understand narrative, argumentative, and informational text. The content objective that they would mostly work on would be construct informational text in language arts that add precision, details, and clarity about complex attributes, qualities, characters, activities, and conceptual relationships. For lower level ELLs, I would have them use basic linking words to talk about art, have the ability to use connectors and comparatives in paragraphs, and I might even do sentences if needed. A growing list of important words and phrases from the text, so it doesn't have to be a full list, but definitely growing. And for higher level ELOs, I'd have them participate in complex discussion about key vocabulary. They would be able to create full sentences using connectors and comparatives, and they would have a broad range of important vocab, and they can also teach others. And then others, I would probably have them lean towards helping lower level ELOs. Technical vocabulary would be words like also, both, and, but, differences, much more than, and by comparison. So materials for whole group would be compare and contrast Venn diagram. I would have the whole class practice to do a whole class practice to demonstrate how to make and use a Venn diagram. We do an example together, and towards the end, I would offer sentence stems. We'll come back up to those, but for day 1, I do review differences between the word compare and contrast, and I would do a think, pair, share technique throughout my entire lesson, and I would start by having them do a think, pair, share technique of what they think the words compare and contrast mean, like their definition. And so they talk with their partner or their table, and they come up with a definition, and each table shares the definition, and then we will all talk about what kind of definition we can make with everyone's definition. So we do shared definition, and I would introduce the Venn diagram, have them follow my steps, and then this would be a we do together activity where I would ask students to give me a simple idea of 2 different things, and we would do our school and a rival school just to keep them interested, and I would write said things on either side of Venn diagram. And so as we go, we would write on one side things about our school, and then on the other side things about the other school. And I would also draw each logo next to each side of each school, just because a visual component can never hurt, and just having text would probably not be as helpful. But then I would also talk about the section that is for similarities and how overlapping is a visual component for the word similarities. And then I would have students do their own activities, so then they would think of something personal to them, and they would complete that Venn diagram by themselves for a few minutes. And I'd go around making sure everyone was doing things correctly and help if needed. And then we would do related to art, where I would introduce 2 different art pieces and have them just study the art for a little bit, and then I would hand out this printed diagram with the art already on the diagram, so that they can just look at the art and write, so it's like visually right there for them. And then I would make sure every student has something, and then I would also offer ideas like thinking about the shapes or the colors or the meanings. And then we would all regroup towards the end, and I pull up the same Venn diagram they're working on and ask students to give at least one of their descriptions to write on the board, and that's how we will end class. But before we end class, I'm gonna do a brief explanation of what we're gonna do the next day, so they know what to look forward to and be thinking about it. For day 2, we would do a review on the Venn diagram using I would have students study the Venn diagram with the class one, and then in the meantime, I would pass out either lined paper or a pre-printed paper with sentence stems and a word bank, and those would go to the ELLs. And so for the students with the blank paper, I would have on the board write a paragraph about comparing the two paintings, and then write another one contrasting, and then they do 4 to 6 sentences each. And then in the meantime, I would go to ELLs and explain that they will use the sentence stems and the word bank to write just a few sentences of each. And if they finish early, ELLs can write more sentences, and non-ELLs can edit and revise their paragraphs. And so for that, going up here, I would adapt all that content, of course, links to the background, by connecting to things they are interested in, like the rival schools. Strategies are incorporated, like visual things, links to past learning, editing and revising, modeling. We modeled the Venn diagrams together. We did it together. They practiced alone twice, and it was all comprehensible input. Same thing over here. We did whole class activities, small group discussions / partner discussions, and then they did independent thinking. We incorporated all of these, so we would read, and then they wrote towards the end. They listened to each other. They spoke about their ideas. Hands-on, they wrote their own Venn diagrams. It was meaningful because they talked about their own personal things and then something meaningful in the art world. It was all linked to the objectives. I promoted engagement by doing things they were interested in at least once or twice, and then doing something they may not be, which would be probably art, if anything. Individual assessments, just looking at everybody do their work. Group work, every group had to come up with a definition. Written, they all proved they could write using either the word bank or the vocabulary. We talked about oral. They spoke about what kind of descriptions they would offer for each one. And that wraps up my lesson plan.